So I met my ex, I would easily say 18 years ago. When I met him, I thought he was Mr. Perfect. I thought he was my Prince Charming. Granted, he was a little bit older than me. Athletics champion, very fit, muscles, funny guy, had all the women running around after him. I was the shy little girl on the track who hung around with all the boys. Like me, I have three brothers, no sister. So for me, boys were always boys. You never thought of it as boyfriend material. So that was a long time ago. I always talked to him as a friend and stuff. And then in 2010, I think it was, yeah, in 2010 in the summertime, after a few years without seeing him, I met him again, also in the stadium, on the track. And for the first time, I think I was 18, we decided, to give it a go and maybe have a relationship. Of course, I was a very immature child, even at my age, where nowadays people don't really think of 18 as an immature person, but I was. And I gave it a go, thinking, hey, what the heck can happen if you have a relationship with someone like him? Um, these pencils are not the best pencils, apparently. So yeah, so we had a relationship, and then I was supposed to leave for 1 year to go to Canada and stay with my grandparents. And in the meantime, he told me he was going to wait for me to come back and stuff. So we didn't have Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and whatever the heck in those days. So in the meantime, I found out years later that he actually had an affair with a girl and left her pregnant. I was gone. I didn't stay for the whole year anymore. I only stayed a few months. I stayed 3 months, and by the time I was back in 3 months, he was already off the horizon. Changed his phone number, changed his address, and just disappeared off the grid. So that left me a very sad, very, very sad person, and still infatuated with him, thinking that he was be my true love and that one day I would get married and have a family with him. Yeah. Let me just tell you that staying 5 years alone, crying after someone, is never going to get you anywhere. Unless you really know that that person is single and doing the same for you, which is no guarantee. No guarantee at all. Because I will tell you that if someone loves you, honestly, be it man, be it woman, they will look for you. So after I came back from Canada and he disappeared off the grid, I decided I was going to go and enroll in medical school, or university as some people call it. Okay, that is 6 years. So I stayed on. I waited 2 years, studied 2 years, and got a tutor, got into medical school, started medical school, didn't have a lot of friends, but had some friends. And then after that, I started hearing rumors of people telling me that I was weird because I didn't have a boyfriend. All the girls had boyfriends and stuff, and I was still shy, as you guys can see. I still don't really have the courage to look at the camera. Anyway, so in my second year of university, I flunked, I think it was biochemistry. Biochemistry? No, not biochemistry. Bacteriology, sorry. So I was supposed to rewrite the exam. It was time to rewrite the exam time. And I was listening to my music, walking in my own world. It was pretty cold outside, I remember that. And from the other direction, right in front of me, comes Prince Charming on his noble steed. A lot skinnier, a lot sicker, and a lot more depressing to look at. But we talked, and He forgot to mention that he was married and had a child, but he took my phone number. Of course, he never called me, and I was left again a very immature 22-year-old. I haven't had that many boyfriends in my life, so someone could actually say, like, dude, how did she not know that? And of course, loving the same person for your whole life, you grow to think, oh, that so and so will come and find me. No, not really. Nope. Okay. So months go by. I think 3 months go by. And one day I'm on Facebook and looking for a swimming team I wanted to enroll in. So I'm trying to find like a group chat or whatever. Trying to find a team where I could see like where can I go swimming at certain hours, basically after I come out from university and stuff, and where could I go for a late night swim, but at a big pool, not a small pool. I used to go to a small pool, but I went anyway. So I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I see this group and this name, and I was like, wow, that looks like a. It showed a picture of a person in a pool with goggles on and a cap on. No name, it just said join us, like a team, join us. Thinking about it now is like, what kind of a name is that? Anyway, so I saw that we had a lot of friends in common. So I was like, oh great, it must be a swimming team. So I was like, fine, so I gave it a friend request and then it started. So of course when I found out that it was him, I still thought that, hey, let's get it together and stuff. Anyway, so it's like 4 o'clock in the morning, and we are talking on the phone, and he's like, "Hey, you want to meet up?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. My mom and dad are gonna kill me if I get out of the house now." Like, when do you want to meet? And he's like, "Now." And I'm like, "What do you mean now?" He's like, "I'm in front of the house." Mind that, I think that now when I think about it, I think it's a little bit spooky. So I'm like, okay, now. So, mind me, I wait for my dad to go to bed because my dad is more like a night person. You call it an owl if you want. And then I sneak out of the house and we start dating. He starts telling me that he's married and he's got a child, and his wife is lying to him and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you poor little person. How could she do that to you? And let's just say that I swallowed everything up. I thought that everything he said was the same person I knew as a child. No, he was sick. Physically sick. That's why he lost so much weight, as I said earlier. So he. Anyway, months go by, we start hanging out more and more, and my mom and dad are like, he owes you some money from 2011, is he gonna give it back? And I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. No, it's okay, So, I don't know why I did, thinking about it now, but I thought he was gonna be everything. Anyway, so we start meeting up together, and after a while, we move in together. So, move in together, and I didn't know when we moved in that I was pregnant. This would be 2016, and we moved in together February 2017. So I was trying to work as a part-time job at KFC. Anyway, and let me just say that in the summer of 2017, he fell off the grid completely. Changed his phone number, moved to another city, and without telling me, or he just fell off the grid. So now thinking about it, as any normal person would probably think, when someone does that to you, or as they call it now, ghosting, if you were to ghost someone, or if someone would ghost you all of a sudden, I would think that that person would dump you. It means you're dumped, right? No? Isn't that what it means? Yeah. So, in my intelligent brain, I decided I would go out with one of his friends and talk about his situation, Not as a date. I am mentioning in capital bold letters. I did not go out with that dude as a date. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how long it was before he reappeared on the horizon. My ex. And we moved together in February 2017, like I said. So it never occurred to me that some guys would be offended if you meet someone else, another man, not as a date, in public, broad daylight, 4 o'clock in the afternoon for lemonade. This wisecrack decided to tell that wisecrack that we went out on a date. So I come back from work, make supper, we have a snack, get in bed. Anyway, so 3 o'clock in the morning, my ex decides to wake me up and say that he's hungry. So I'm like, okay, like any obedient woman, my mom always taught me that the man has to be respected, which is fine by me. So I made him a quick salad, a really nice salad, really nice. So he doesn't say anything, he eats, it's fine by me, the people eat. So, yeah, so I get back in bed and then it blew up. Let me just say that violence is not the key to anything. So he beat me up. And when I say beating up, I do not mean slapping around. I mean belt, pulling around the apartment by the hair, kicking, slapping, fisting, and then tossing me out of the apartment at 3 o'clock in the morning in the month of February in my pajamas with no coat on. Yeah. And that is exactly the same day I found out I was pregnant. I think it was the 24th of February. Anyway, which is basically my country's way of Valentine's Day. Yeah. So that was what I got for Valentine's Day, as they call it. Anyway, so I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, dude, what am I gonna do now? I'm literally walking down the street crying, and there's this betting place with all these drunken dudes on the street, and they're all looking at me. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? I left my mom and dad and everyone. I burnt bridges behind me, basically, for him. So basically, you put your ego down, you let down your guard, and you go back home. You ask for forgiveness and stuff. So my house did not have a key. It had like a code to get in. Yeah. So I put the code in and I went back to my mom and dad's, put the code in the door, and snuck up to my old bedroom. So mind me, nobody knew I came home. In the morning, I came downstairs to have tea and coffee with my mom. She was very happy to see me. In the meantime, my grandparents from Canada were visiting. And let me just say that just because they're old, it never means that they do not see, especially when they have 2 daughters of their own. So I remember I went to give my grandfather some tea, and he saw, I don't even know, because I didn't know I was bruised. I had a bruise on my neck. And he asked me to lift up my shirt. Not my shirt, I had a sweater on. So he asked me, and then I don't even remember who was in the room. I know my mom was, and I know my grandfather saw. And that's when everything started. So that is when I should have left. But I did not, because I thought that, hey, if you love someone, you won't give up that easily, right? You have to forgive. That is what they teach us, that you forgive and forget. No, you forgive. You never forget. So this is my advice. Don't forget. Never forget. You can let it pass by. You can forgive, but it doesn't mean to swallow it all up again, or to let. Anyway, so I go on with my pregnancy. I start going to my doctor. My doctor says your baby has an omphalochel, as they call it. It is what basically the baby has his organs out of his belly button. or as they call it, a sort of a hernia. So they're like, oh, you have to take it out and have an abortion and stuff. I don't really agree with abortions, although a lot of people do have them. I don't really agree with it. So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna have it. And besides, it's a little bit late in the pregnancy to tell me that I can have an abortion. So I had this beautiful baby boy. And they all start doing these tests on me to find out if it's a genetic thing. And they're like, no, it's not genetic. I'm like, well, then how does he have this? They're like, well, probably from a big trauma. That is, I think, mid 2017, so mid 2017, when I realized that my son had a booba because of his father. Of course, in the meantime, I started talking to Prince Charming again, as we call him. And I thought, like, oh, he'll marry me because I'm pregnant and we know each other for so long and stuff. And yep, didn't really work out like that. When Prince Charming finds out that the baby is actually got a booba, of course, oh, you had an affair with someone and that's not my baby, that is not my baby. So time goes by, I have the baby, November, and I tell him, like, oh, I had the baby, and he doesn't come. He doesn't sign for the baby. He says, that's not my child. So his family doesn't come either. And I am basically a single mom, unmarried, and who had a dude, so I don't say something bad, who didn't have the guts to assume responsibility for what he has done. So my child was taken at birth. I never got to hold him, and sent to the child's neonatology hospital. So my baby is always in the hospital, of course, not being able to hold and take care of my child. I think like any mom that can't, you start having all sorts of traumas with, especially having a toxic relationship. So I go every single day to see my child, and Prince Charming, I'm really feeling my blood pressure going up, is telling me like, oh, that's not my child. And of course the insults start, like slut, whore, bitch, stupid, idiot, you can't do this, quit school, let's move together, la 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 la. In the meantime, he is telling me that he's divorcing. So I think a year and a half passed in the meantime since we re-met. And I'm like, why is it taking so long since you don't have anything anyway? You don't have a house, you don't have a car, you don't have anything. Yeah, we're divorcing. And I'm like, if you want, you can do it like in a week maximum. So yeah, my child died at 4.5 months. And I will tell you that the only people other than my close friends who were there for me was my family. He was not there. His family was not there. They never sent flowers. They never sent a message they never sent a message. They never did anything. So let me just say that I think losing my child, I grew up very fast. And the hate started coming. Of course, at this point in time in life, hate is fighting love. 10 days after I buried my son, I found out I was pregnant again. I did not want to be pregnant again. Again, I will mention I do not agree with abortion. So I did not have the courage. I did not want to take out the child. I did not want to have an abortion. So I went to talk to someone, and I was crying, and I was like, how could I love this baby when I just lost my baby, my first child, and how can this happen to me? I didn't plan on it. I didn't want it. And the person told me basically, think of it as your first child prayed that you would have a healthy child. Let me just say that in this world, there does exist God, and things happen for a reason. So this person tells me, think of it as how much would your first child have suffered in life if he would have lived? You never had him home, never held him to your chest, never breastfed him or taken him out in a park, and all his little life he's been having things poked into him and hoses, and you never had him home. He would have suffered. And even if he had the operation and everything, he would have had people making fun of him because he was different. Those were the words I needed to hear from a person I loved. And it was not my ex. So those words melted me in and made me love my child in every single point of view. Of course, my child is perfectly healthy. Thank God. I'm so grateful for him. And not only is he healthy, he mended me. So my second child is very healthy. And of course, Prince Charming finds out that, oh, he's healthy. So let's sign for the baby, right? Oh, So he signs for the child. And in my immature mind at one point, also continuing being immature and believing everything, I thought that he was going to propose. So I gave him a 1-year ultimatum. My second son was born also in November 2018. So yeah, never happened. He's like, oh, how can I have a child with you? Don't you look at yourself? You're fat and you're in medical school. You care for your family more and stuff. And I will admit it. Yes, I care for my family, but after the fact that he was never there for me and for my first child, even as a friend, if not as a boyfriend, that is something that can easily make you disrespect someone, hate someone. And I honestly will tell you, I do not respect anyone in his family. People can say, like, oh, but his family didn't do that or didn't do this and blah, blah, blah. But I do not respect any of them. Because, let me tell you something. If I had a friend that I was seeing, let's say, once a week or probably even once every 2 weeks, a friend, not a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and their child died, I would make time. I would leave from work or ask leave from work for a few hours to go to that funeral, to go and show my moral support to that friend. Yeah. No. So he told me like, oh, I couldn't leave because I was working and I could never tell someone at work. So let me just say that his boss was a very moral person and a very religious person in a way, but also very moral. And I told him, like, how could you tell me? How can you stare me in the face and tell me that your boss would have never let you go to your son's funeral? And he's like, oh, but you don't understand. He's very strict. He's very like that. And I'm like, if you would have told him that your friend lost his baby or her baby and you need to go to a funeral, you're not going to a disco, you're going to a friggin' funeral, let alone your own child, I'm sure he would have gladly given you a few days off. But no, he decided to take excuses and make excuses for everyone and everything in the whole wide world. So, with all that, I still decided to forgive him and think, people will change. When people say people change, they usually mean that a person will, they don't think about it, but usually it's understood that a person wants to change. If a person doesn't want to change, if the person is still negative, pessimistic, and is pulling you down, I, from the bottom of the heart, will tell you, run for the hills. That person will pull you down so hard that you will wish you were never born. And not only that, they will make your moral and logic go through the ground. They'll make you think that there's something wrong with you, not with them. So my second son right now is 3. He has never proposed. But we decided to move in together a few months ago again. I still let him see it. Oh yeah, so wait. I'm falling out of line here. I think my son was 1. In the meantime, while I was pregnant with my second child, I got a few beatings again because, he remembered that I went out with his friend. The thing is that right now I'm just thinking to myself, like, what friend is a friend that goes behind your back and talks bad about you and is jealous of your girlfriend when you ghosted her anyway? It's me and my logic. So, I got a few beatings when I was pregnant with my second child. What I don't understand is why I did not leave. And this really makes me angry because, I don't know, I should have. I should have left for my own child's sake. The first one and the second one. So he signs for the second child because he's healthy. Thank God he's healthy. Anyway, so basically here starts the communist regime as I call it. Basically, I own you. You can't do anything. You can't talk to anybody. Please unfriend everyone. He made me change my email address. He made me cancel or delete my Facebook account and change my number. I changed my phone number, I don't even know how many times, because people are not up there. Anyway, so let me tell you something. When a person hits you, if you're in a violent relationship, even where they raise their hand at you, don't wait for the second time. Do not do that mistake because you will regret it. You will regret it. And if you are a mom or a dad, if you don't think of yourself, think of the child that looks at you guys fighting. That is not what you want your child to see, and that is not what you want your child to remember of you guys. Even if it's your wife, even if it's your husband, it can be girlfriend, boyfriend, I don't care. You don't want that for your child. So, yeah. And don't let people talk you down. If you are in university and you're a single mom and having a complicated relationship, don't let people say, oh, why don't you take a break? If you have family that is willing to help you with your child, you're lucky. Because apparently there are not a lot of people that do it. I am one of the lucky ones. And use that to your advantage. Do not quit school. As my mom told me, if you quit school, your son will just be the son of a single mom and you will not have money. If you keep on school, your son will be the son of a doctor, the son of a lawyer, the son of whatever you want to be. You'll have a status. And not only a status, but a steady income. And that is another thing that in my relationship, he did not want. He did not want me to have my own money. I was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom. Never work from home. Good grief, no. Not allowed to talk to my mom or my family, my friends. I lost so many friends thinking that he was my friend. In all actual fact, he was my foe from the very beginning. Well, that is about it for now. I will give you guys a part 2. That is my drawing until now. I think I'll get some markers to do the contours. Anyway, please like, subscribe, and maybe even share my videos. I will be back. Have a good day and good luck to all of y'all.